Welcome back to Network Africa. Now, failed seasonal rains in Ethiopia's Somali region are expected to prolong the country's worst drought in about 50 years, and that's according to aid agencies. The country's failed rains, which meteorologists blame on the El Nino weather phenomenon, has created a drought in some areas of the country, which is said to be worse than the 1984 crisis. Ethiopia's government and the United Nations have asked for $1.4 billion to feed the 10.2 million Ethiopians. An additional 7.9 million chronically food insecure people are receiving rations through the Ethiopian government's Productive Safety Net program supported by the United States and other donors. But according to the United Nations, funding shortages mean food aid is in short supply and malnutrition will increase dramatically if donor money runs out by May of this year.
The peak of the crisis is still to come. So I think we will see the situation getting worse before it will get better. We talk about maybe a small improvement around mid-2016 or shortly after this. Therefore, a step up of the humanitarian operation is absolutely necessary.
Now, you recall that we brought you news of 19 policemen who were killed over the weekend in the Sinai Peninsula in Egypt. That is just one of many attacks which Egypt has suffered since the ousting of former President Mohamed Morsi back in 2013. Tour companies, which provide the country's second biggest source of income, have struggled since the terrorist attack in October of last year, which was carried out by ISIS to reassure foreigners that Egypt is a safe place to go on vacation. But we're not going to take you as far back as 2013 when attacks of that nature escalated. We'll just bring you a list of some of the attacks which Egypt has suffered, particularly from the start of 2015. Now, you recall that on January 29th of 2015, 40 members of Egypt's armed forces were killed in El Arish. That was due to an attack by terrorists. In February 26th of 2015, one person was killed, 3 were injured in a restaurant explosion. After that, in March of 2013, 2 attacks occurred, one which killed 2 civilians and injured 9 in the High Court blast, another in which 1 person was killed and 25 were wounded in El Arish security barracks. The following month, that's April the 2nd, there were about 5 significant attacks. The first was on April the 2nd. 15 soldiers were killed, 19 were injured in the Sinai ambush, which is very close to what happened over the weekend. Another person was killed on the 15 May bridge explosion. Another person was killed on the 9th of April in the mortar bomb blast, and that actually killed 9 residents. 5 soldiers were also killed in Sheikh Zuwaid on April the 12th. 6 people were killed, 24 others were wounded in the suicide blast. And the following month, that's actually July, as many as 100 fighters and 17 soldiers were killed in simultaneous attacks at checkpoints. We're just taking you through this so that you can see the difficulty which Egypt has faced as far back as 2013, but we decided to focus on what happened in 2015. That did not stop the President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi from making efforts to boost Egypt's economy, as that is what brings in a lot of money for the country. It's the second biggest source of income for Egypt, which is why we saw efforts made by the president last year with the Sharm el-Sheikh conference. And we also seen that he has also taken a step this year in the devaluation of the Egyptian currency. And he also set up the Long Live Egypt Fund. That was back in 2014, but he's still encouraging Egyptians to participate in the Long Live Egypt Fund. He describes the situation of the Egyptian economy right now as very, very difficult. And he says, if it were possible for him to be sold, I would sell myself. That's exactly what the president of Egypt is saying regarding the state of the Egypt economy. But joining us right now to speak with us is the Channels TV business editor, Bosun Omofaye. He's with us in studio. Bosun, thank you very much for your time.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Now, we were talking about this earlier on, the devaluation of the Egyptian currency. That has actually made the Egyptian destination cheaper for tourists. But analysts are saying that Egypt still needs to do more in order to convince tourists that it's a safe destination. But was that a step in the right direction to begin with? devaluing the currency?
Well, Egypt faced very serious problems when it comes to the amount of inflows that it can receive into the economy, and which you need to turn around the tourist attraction centers, to equip the security forces and keep the bad guys at bay, to do more effective policing and give more confidence to both locals and international tourists that yes, they need to set up those bus operators, they need to open up the tourist centers, you need to go to the peninsula, you need to do the Gaza Strip.
But was that the right step to take, the devaluation?
Well, the country has its back against the wall, as it were. President al-Sisi has his back against the wall. He has to do something. He needs to reflate the stock market. He needs to reflate the currency. He needs to get the economy back on track. Where would the money come from? So he has to let go a certain percentage, around 15%, and you've seen some positive inflows of foreign investment into the financial assets of Egypt. That is very good for the country. Again, if you don't have foreign investors looking in, foreign tourists won't look in as well into the same country. So whether you like it or not, something like that has to happen. He also did something very nice early this year. President al-Sisi, about last month, held what you call Africa 2016 Investment Forum, in which even the Nigerian president and a few head of governments now across Africa attended, including foreign investors who were together, and the president al-Sisi outlined what he think the investment needs of the country will be. What has been is that's been very open. As part of what you said, he said, if it's possible for me to sell myself, I will sell myself. He's rallying the country to himself. He's launched that fund in which Egyptians are to donate £1 Egyptian pound a day via their mobile phone. So instead of raising taxes, he's asking Egyptians to do it voluntarily as a nationalistic action to get the economy, to get the government to have more money and to be able to have what to spend to keep things going.
Now, just so that our viewers understand what you were just talking about now, Bosin is talking about the Long Live Egypt project, and that entails that every day an Egyptian would send a text message to the fund. That's $1, which is about 13 cents, if you convert it to the US dollar per day. And what that would do at the end of the day, if 90 million Egyptians have mobile phones, which is actually the case, then if 10 million of them actually participate, it will generate about 300 million Egyptian pounds a month. And that's almost 4 billion Egyptian pounds a year. So it sounds like you're in support of that.
That's a pot of money. If you have about 350 million Egyptian pounds every month, that means you have you need to re-equip the security forces. You need to strengthen them. Look at the statistics you roll out almost on a daily, on a monthly basis. There were serious, deadly impact on security forces. So before you allow these security forces to have confidence and loyalty flagging, you need to raise it up. So you need to pay them more, you need to equip them more, you need to give them the confidence they need to be sure that when they're pursuing the terrorists or the insurgents, they'll be able to be on the good side of the fireworks. Therefore, a lot has to be put together. But again, you also need to look good internationally. So, because see, whether you like it or not, Egypt holds a very strategic position on the map of Africa. Largest economy to the north. You have the peninsula there, where you have a lot of freight going in, whether it's oil and gas across that peninsula. Then you also have the gateway to the north in terms of trade with other big North African countries like Tunisia, Morocco, and the rest of except Libya, which is bleeding. Then Egypt is also part of the Gold Cooperation Council, which you call the GCC, to the Middle East. So there's a bit of cooperation here from the GCC to see that Egypt doesn't go down.
Yes.
And Egypt has been a major geopolitical power player between the West, which is the Western world, and the Middle East as well. Egypt has been a major power broker in that region. So Egypt, whether there are terror attacks or not, tourists, investors would always flock to that because historically, that was the first world power, as it were. So it still holds that record and try to fine-tune it and make sure that, look, there's still investors' money coming in.
So is Egypt the example that African countries who are having trouble, which is actually mostly the case, is this the model we need to follow?
If you go down a little bit the map of Africa, a little bit to the east, you find Kenya there fighting Al-Shabaab and also trying with the Westgate Mall and whatever you attacked, and how they're trying to get things back on with their own tourist attractions. So Egypt on that. Ethiopia is also facing some challenges. Nigeria down south, down west here is also facing some challenges. We're trying to find a way to get out of our own economic conundrum and challenges, both local and outside. So Egypt is giving some good examples as to how you need to come forward. You need to step forward and tell the global investors and the world community how bad things are, but what you are doing about it. Number two, you need to rally the populace around yourself. So the president has been very honest, and he says, I'm creating a fund, bring $1 a day. Can you ask Nigerians to bring $1 a day? That would be a lot of money.
Yes.
Maybe we should do that.
At this point, it would be a lot of money.
Maybe we should do that. 160 million people. If you put $1 a day, that's about 300 naira a day. Okay. I guess we can talk about that another day.
I think so. But
I think we should talk about that another day.
Yes, another day. We'll try that. Bosun, thank you so much for joining us. Our Channels TV business editor, Bosun Omafaye. Still to come on Network Africa. Dancing his way out of poverty, a South African ballet genius lands himself a U.S.